Welcome to Jesus Changes Everything, a daily podcast dedicated to providing a fresh look at the ancient and glorious truth that Jesus not only reigns, but is busy about the business of bringing all things under subjection, that celebrates the wonder and the glory that he has been given all authority in heaven and on earth. It is not by accident that the Westminster divines spent time unpacking and exploring the scope and the blessing of the redemption that those who rest in the finished work of Christ receive. We looked at the benefits that come when one enters into the kingdom, the benefits that come when one passes away, the benefits that come when Jesus returns. And having done so, now in question 39, having already focused on the grace of God, we now come to our response. Question 39 asks, what is the duty which God requires of man? What is the duty which God requires of man? Now, before I get to the answer, let's lay a little bit of groundwork here. And remember, first of all, that this is not just believers, this is for all men. This is what God requires of all men. Man as man, not man as believer, man as man. Secondly, it is a duty. And we have to recognize that as our Maker, God has every right, every liberty to impose whatever duty he wishes on us. In fact, he has the liberty to impose duty on us without revealing to us what that duty is. But in his grace, he does reveal what it is. The divine's answer, the duty which God requires of man, is obedience to his revealed will. Pretty simple, isn't it? All you have to do is what he says. That's it. What he tells us to do, that's what we have to do. Of course, none of us do that. Every single one of us fails in this duty apart from Christ. He's required it, and we have failed it. We don't obey his revealed will. We fail to accomplish what is our duty, and that puts us rightly under his judgment. Now, for a minute, I want to take a look at this expression at the end of the answer, revealed will. There is a wisdom here that we don't want to miss. It's very important for us to be able to distinguish among or between, depending on whether there's more than two or only two, ways to speak about God's will. I would suggest that there are at least two ways that we can speak about God's will, one of which is his revealed will. The other is what we would call his decretive will, that will by which he determines whatsoever will come to pass. And those can, in fact, are different. There's no question about that. One does not have to embrace a reformed view of the sovereignty of God or a supralapsarian view of the order of the decrees to recognize this, because the Bible itself says this. One of the clearest places that God says this is in Peter's sermon early in the book of Acts, where he does two things, much like Joseph talking to his brothers about what they had done to him. Peter says, you stiff-necked Jews, you crucified the Messiah. Oh, by the way, according to the foreordained plan of God. God ordained this. God decreed that this would come to pass for our good and for his glory. But turning Jesus over to the Romans and making false accusations, that is a failure to keep the first commandment. It's a failure to keep the 9th commandment, and probably the 8th commandment, and we could go on from there. These men violated God's revealed will while fulfilling God's decretive will. Well, one of the dangers that comes with recognizing this, which is true, again, it's right there in the Bible, but we need to be very careful to remember that our duty is not to obey his decretive will. That's going to happen no matter what. You can't justify a violation of God's revealed will by saying, oh, this was God's decretive will. This, friends, is what Romans 9 is all about. Who can resist his will? Why does he still find fault? That's the objection. Now, wait a minute. If God says don't do X, and God's ordained from all eternity that I do X, how in the world can I keep from doing X? Paul's answer is, who are you, O man? Doesn't God have the right to do what he wants with what he's made? Which brings us back to this answer. Our duty, our moral obligation, is to do what he commands, what he says. I don't have to predict what he's planned. I just have to do what he's commanded. That is so freeing. It has such a powerful implication for how we understand the field of ethics. Because at the end of the day, there are two schools of thought with respect to ethics. There are consequentialist views and non-consequentialist views, or deontological views. A consequentialist view is a view that says, well, you decide what's right and wrong based on the consequences of the decision. The deontological perspective is, no, you decide what's right and wrong based on what's right and wrong. Well, this answer is firmly and completely deontological. We do what God says, and we leave the results in his hands. You may do the right thing, and terrible things may come to pass, and you will have no guilt for it. You may do the wrong thing, and wonderful things will come to pass, and you will stand under God's judgment. So very freeing. What is our duty? Our duty is to obey the revealed will of God. It's time once again for another segment of curating your movie library, and it is once again my pleasure to welcome onto this segment my precious and beautiful wife, whom I love dearly, and who is just quite adept. I mean, she's slow to do it, but she's quite adept at choosing what we should watch. I bet maybe I get 3 out of 10. I pick a good one. She's much closer to 7 out of 10. Welcome, sweetheart. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you, baby.
Now, which brings us to what we're going to talk about on this particular segment. We're going to talk about, not a movie, but a series. A series that we discovered that came from Masterpiece Theater on PBS, which we have enjoyed. What was the... Oh, it was Grantchester that we were watching that was from Masterpiece...
And we're still not done with that series.
No, we're not. Masterpiece, but it was Masterpiece Mystery.
Yes.
This is just plain Masterpiece.
Yes.
It's called Poldark. And we are in season 4 now. We started maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
I mean, we're plowing through these and very much enjoying them. This time I'm going to go ahead and lay the basic premise, and then I'm going to ask you some questions because I know this was your choice. And I mean, I'm enjoying it very much, but you are even more so, I think. The story is about a young man who was not the firstborn son. He was of English gentry family, but not the firstborn son. He served in the American Revolutionary War for the British as a captain, but that's very, very briefly covered. He's developed this reputation of being somewhat mercurial and unrestrained, and he comes back home and has to
finds his father dead.
Yes.
And the girl that he was in love with is now engaged to his cousin.
Yes, who has inherited
the estate.
The estate, yes. So, yeah, not a good homecoming.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he walks into the home
As they're dining.
as they're celebrating the engagement.
Yes.
Yes.
The announcement of the engagement.
Yes, precisely. So, from there we follow as he seeks to build a life for himself, and just the adventures from there cover everything from a lot of romance, which we'll get to in a minute, to his zeal and passion for caring for the people in his neighborhood or his community, his economic exploits and challenges and frustrations, and we meet just these wonderful characters. I mean, it's just rich and interesting. Even he walks into his father's home, which is completely run down, holes in the roof, chickens all over the kitchen. It's an absolute mess, and walks into the master bedroom, and there finds the cook and the handyman. When
he returns to his own home.
sound asleep. And they're not they're an interesting couple, those two. But it's one of these things that sort of does not transcend, but it crosses over a decent amount of time, right? So, let me ask it this way: what would you say is your favorite storyline? Are you more interested, like I am, in the battle with George? Are you more interested in the relationship with Demelza? Are you more interested in the relationship with?
Well, now maybe this is true for you, like it is for me. It changes because each story brings out a little bit more information, a little bit more background, and you're not just wishing two heroic people are staying together. What you do find is two people, Demelza and Captain Ross, being true to commitment and love. And Ross was a man of honor, and apparently he didn't have that. When we kind of see him first come in on the stage, it almost came in with a reputation that he was careless and he was a scoundrel. And what shows is that's not true at all. And I think as we've watched all these storylines, I think we always are rooting, oh no, don't do that, or do this. But I think it was interesting that we found out that the character who played George, who was his greatest enemy, only in George's mind, probably, was that George was trying so hard to beat Ross at everything. And he comes across as though he owns everything, he has money, but come to find out in the season that we're in now that he was a blacksmith's child.
Oh, we knew that.
And I don't remember knowing that.
Yes.
Yeah, I just remember
there's a whole
that he
class
doesn't
thing.
start really going into hating his breeding and making it a big deal about him. It's almost like if a person doesn't get picked for the baseball team, they get all upset because it's somebody else's fault, and that really comes to term with the breeding rights. That
it was revealed earlier, but it does get bigger,
right? And I think that was the thing. I don't think that we saw it coming out until he really began to verbalize it, and then began to live in the anger of that being the reason he was trying to pursue Ross and dominate everybody's thoughts on Ross.
Which is part of what's just so good about the show, is that you do feel like you're wanting to explore what people's feelings are. That said, you know that I've had the complaint that there have been a number of times when characters behave in ways that I remember that there's a writer behind them. I'm thinking, okay, the writer here must have known this is not something this character would do, but I want them to do it anyway, so I'm going to have them do it. I mean, this is really bad. A couple of times where that happened, but the rest of the time, I mean, it's still incredibly rich. You can overlook those failures because you want to know everything from what's going on in the heart and mind of this very wealthy person from a lower background, this the pastor, who's a snake in the grass.
The vicar.
Yeah, the vicar. the scullery maid, and it shows her. Gosh, I'm going to give this away.
That's okay.
There's a relationship that you're rooting for. It's two young people that are in love with each other, and the girl's a good girl, and you think the guy's a good guy, and you're just rooting for him, and then they get married, and the next day you find out that the guy's a traitor, and he's dead, and you're like glad he's dead all of a sudden. I mean, there's a lot of emotional whiplash because you do find out people are more complicated than you think. They're not cardboard cutouts.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, as you see those kind of characters portrayed, they're kind of in one scene, maybe a couple of episodes, and then they're done.
Yeah.
And then the heralding characters, you just kind of see them live out the life. So you'll see different characters kind of come and go, but the main ones are staying. Absolutely.
We want to say before we sign off here, because we're out of time, this is on Prime.
Yes.
It's pretty doggone clean.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's perfect.
Right.
But
I don't think that we've seen any nudity at all.
No, we've not seen any nudity. And we, again, very strongly commend it to you. It's something that we look forward to watching. Sweetheart, thank you for picking it out.
That's great.
And
I really like them.
Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
Love you, sweetheart.
I love you too.
Ingratitude is virtually universal. Well, what do we do about that? How do we reboot our gratitude? My suggestion is by following what I call the 3 gratitude reboot. Adam and Eve were ungrateful in paradise. We come by ingratitude naturally. The children of Israel, they were ungrateful after being delivered from slavery and while being led to a land flowing with milk and honey. The Apostle Paul, in seeking to describe the universality of our guilt, says in Romans chapter 1, verse 21, neither were they grateful. And then Paul goes on to explain what flows out of such futile thinking. There is a way out. The solution to every problem is to repent and to believe the gospel. When, therefore, I find myself struggling with ingratitude, and most assuredly I do, the first thing I do is preach the gospel to myself. That gospel preaching comes in the form of 3 simple questions. The first is, what am I due? This question is designed to remind me of the scope and horror of my sin. I daily rebel against the living God. Worse still, I daily dishonor my loving Heavenly Father. What I am due is an eternity of torment. I'm due a lake of fire. The only thing God owes me is His wrath. My debt to Him is infinite, and my ability to even begin to repay is non-existent. Be careful. You may think I'm exaggerating. The truth is that words fail me. I'm worse than I think. He's more holy than I could ever grasp, and my sin is ugly beyond description. The second question is, what have I been given? The very first part of the answer is not what I am due. The righteous fury of God is not something I walk under. My sins have been forgiven. They are as far removed from me as the east is from the west. What have I been given? Peace with the almighty living God, who has every right to destroy me forever. This first causes every other gift to pale in comparison. But there is more. I've been given the gift of the Holy Spirit, who dwells within me, comforting me, guiding me, walking with me. I've been given a wife who loves me faithfully. I've been given friends and family and food. I've been set free from things that had a hold on me. And I carry shame no more. Finally, I've been given unshakable promises, which brings us to the third question. What have I been promised? If I told you I was going to give you the winning lottery ticket, and I asked you to wait a few days, would you grumble against me? Yet God has promised something infinitely more valuable, that we will be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And he, unlike me, he has never broken a promise. He has promised me an eternity without hardship, without pain, without suffering, without sickness, without death. And for me, it is likely less than 50 years away. I've been promised the beatific vision. I will behold the glory of God. The longing of my soul will be utterly satisfied, and I will want for nothing save something to grumble about. My calling is to live in light of both what I have been given and what I have been promised, and to rejoice and give thanks in all things. Praise God, my failure here is also covered by the blood of Jesus. You've been listening to the Jesus Changes Everything podcast, a production of Dunamis Fellowship, the teaching outreach of Dr. R.C. Sproul Jr. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to subscribe, which you can do at all the usual outlets, to tell your friends, and to spread the word. To learn more about the work of Dunamis Fellowship, please visit rcsproulJR.com. And join us next time on Jesus Changes Everything.